Welcome to Heartbreaker, your love radio.
Andrew always considered his family life to be the foundation of his existence. He fully dedicated himself to the role of husband and father, believing he was building a solid and stable life alongside Amanda and their children. However, this perception was abruptly shattered one night that, until then, had seemed ordinary. Amanda was quieter than usual during dinner, a behavior that Andrew noticed but attributed to the day's exhaustion. After the children went to bed, she asked to talk in the living room. Andrew, unsuspecting, followed her, feeling only a slight unease. "Amanda, what's wrong? You seem strange today," he asked, trying to hide the concern in his voice. She took a deep breath, avoiding Andrew's gaze. "Andrew, I need to tell you something. Something serious." He frowned, now clearly worried.
Okay, I'm listening.
"What is it?" "The truth is, I haven't been happy for a long time. I feel suffocated in this marriage, and I've met someone else. I'm moving out with the kids and I'm going to file for divorce." For a moment, Andrew's world seemed to stop. He looked at Amanda, incredulous, his mouth dry, the words stuck in his throat. "What? What do you mean, Amanda? We have a family. Why didn't you tell me you were unhappy? We could have worked it out together." Amanda finally found the courage to look Andrew in the eyes. "I tried, Andrew. I tried several times, but you were always so involved in work, in your own things. I felt alone. And then
I met James."
"James?" Andrew repeated, feeling a pang of pain at the name. "Who is this guy? How could you do this to me, to our family?" She sighed, looking exhausted. "I didn't want it to be this way, but it happened. He understands me. He's there for me in ways you never were." Andrew shook his head, incredulous and desperate. "Amanda, please don't do this. Think about the kids, think about us. We can go to therapy, we can try to fix things. Don't throw everything away over a mistake." She shook her head, determined. "It's not a mistake, Andrew. It's my happiness. And I've already made up my mind." Desperation and anger mixed within Andrew. "You can't just take the kids and leave. They need me too. I'm not going to let you do this." Amanda crossed her arms, defensive. "I'm not trying to take them away from you. We can discuss a visitation agreement, but they will live with me." Andrew's pain turned into a plea. "Amanda, please don't do this. I love you. I love our family. We can't just give up." She sighed, her eyes filled with tears, but her expression was firm. "Andrew, I'm sorry, but my heart is set. This is the best decision for me and for the kids. I'll pack my things and leave tomorrow." Andrew felt as if his heart was being ripped out of his chest. He wanted to scream, to fight, but felt powerless in the face of Amanda's determination. He watched her go upstairs, each of her steps seeming like a hammer striking the nail of what used to be their married life. That night, Andrew barely slept. He repeatedly wondered where he had gone wrong, what he could have done differently. The first rays of sunlight brought him only more despair as the reality of his situation became clearer. Amanda was really leaving, and she was taking their children with her. The next morning, the house that was once filled with laughter and lively conversations was plunged into a funereal silence. Amanda was busy packing her things and the kids. Andrew tried to talk to her one more time, but his words met a wall of coldness and determination. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice hoarse with fatigue and emotion. "I'm going to my parents' house for a while, until I find a place for us. I'll contact a lawyer to discuss the terms of the divorce and custody of the children," Amanda replied without stopping her packing. "You're really set on doing this, aren't you?" Andrew said, more to himself than to her. "Yes, Andrew. I am," she replied without looking at him. The children, still too young to fully understand what was happening, were confused and scared. Andrew tried to explain as best as he could, but his own feelings of betrayal and despair made the task nearly impossible. "Daddy, why is Mommy leaving? Did we do something wrong?" asked the eldest daughter, her eyes full of tears. Andrew swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. "No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults have problems they need to work out. But I promise I'll always be here for you, and we'll spend time together. None of this is your fault." Amanda watched the scene, visibly emotional, but she didn't back down from her decision. Once she finished packing, she quickly said goodbye to Andrew, avoiding prolonging the pain of separation. "I'll contact you soon to discuss visits," she said before leaving with the kids. Andrew stood in the doorway, feeling empty and defeated. When Amanda took the children to live with her, promising Andrew limited visitation, he felt as if the ground had been ripped out from under his feet. The house, which once echoed with laughter and play, was now engulfed in a painful silence. Andrew felt powerless, as if he were losing not just his family, but also an essential part of himself. He then decided to delve deeper into who this man was who had entered Amanda's life. Andrew went to his friend Ricardo Mendez's house, a trusted and experienced man, to discuss the matter. "Mendez, have you ever heard of this James Williams?" Andrew asked, trying to hide the anxiety in his voice. Ricardo looked up from his documents and frowned. "He's a prominent businessman in the city. Why do you ask?" Andrew took a deep breath before responding. "He's the reason Amanda left me." Ricardo nodded, understanding Andrew's concern. "Let's investigate this." A few days later, Ricardo came back with disturbing information. James Williams wasn't just any businessman. He was a man of great influence and wealth, involved in various businesses, and known for his ability to manipulate situations to his advantage. More importantly, Ricardo discovered that James and Amanda were living together. Hearing this, Andrew felt a mix of anger and betrayal. It was as if a knife had been plunged into his heart. "So, that's it. She left me because of him," Andrew murmured, feeling the fury rise within him. Ricardo nodded sympathetically. "It appears so. And from what I've discovered, James has a history of getting involved with married women and using his influence to separate them from their husbands. This could be an advantage for us, Andrew. If we can prove he manipulated Amanda, it could strengthen your position in the custody battle." Andrew felt a new wave of determination. He would not only fight for his children, but also expose the truth behind Amanda's betrayal. Determined to confront the reality, Andrew went to Amanda and James's new residence. He needed to see it with his own eyes. Upon arrival, Andrew's heart ached as he saw his children playing in the garden, seemingly oblivious to the storm unfolding around them. Amanda appeared at the door, surprised to see Andrew there. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice laden with tension. Andrew met her gaze, feeling the anger simmering beneath the surface. "I know about James, Amanda. I know you're living with him. I need to understand why. Why did you destroy our family for this man?" Amanda averted her eyes, visibly uncomfortable. "It's not that simple, Andrew. I fell in love with him. James offered me a better life, something I felt was missing." Andrew shook his head in disbelief. "A better life? And the children? What do you think this is doing to them? They need stability, a united family. You threw all that away for an illusion." Before Amanda could respond, James emerged from the house, standing beside her with a confident smile. "Andrew, right? I think we need to talk," James said, extending his hand in a gesture of false cordiality. Andrew ignored the extended hand, his gaze fixed on James. "What did you do to my family, James? Did you manipulate Amanda to leave me?" Andrew asked, his voice loaded with accusation. James smiled, unfazed. Amanda is an adult, Andrew. She made her own decisions. Maybe you should ask yourself why she chose to leave. Andrew's anger peaked, but he knew losing control wouldn't help. He forced himself to take a step back, breathing deeply. This isn't over, James. I'll fight for my children and for the truth. And you will pay for this, Andrew said, before turning and walking away, leaving Amanda and James behind. In the days that followed, Andrew and Ricardo worked tirelessly to gather evidence against James. Each discovery increased Andrew's resentment, but also strengthened his resolve. He found out that James had not only seduced Amanda, but also used his influence to expedite the divorce process and ensure Amanda took the children with her. In one of the meetings with Ricardo, Andrew vented. I feel so powerless, Mendez. Each passing day, it feels like I'm losing more control over my own life. Ricardo placed a comforting hand on Andrew's shoulder. I understand, Andrew. But we're making progress. Every piece of evidence we gather is a step closer to securing custody of your children. Go to my sister's office with the information we have. She will help you. Andrew nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. He knew the battle would be long and arduous, but he was determined to see justice served. When Andrew walked into Sarah Mendez's law office, he felt a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew this consultation could be a turning point in his life. Sarah was a renowned family law attorney, known for her competence and skill in complicated custody cases. Andrew hoped she could help him ensure that his children stayed with him. Sarah greeted him with a warm yet firm smile. Her office was elegantly decorated, with shelves full of legal books and a few framed recognition certificates on the walls. She gestured for Andrew to sit in a comfortable chair across from her desk. Good morning, Andrew. Let's talk about your case, Sarah said, opening a notebook. Andrew took a deep breath before beginning to explain his situation. He recounted Amanda's request for a divorce, her decision to take the children, and her new relationship with James Williams. Each word seemed heavy, but it was necessary for Sarah to understand all the details. I understand, Sarah said after listening attentively. The first thing we need to do is assess the custody rights. You mentioned that Amanda took the children without your formal consent. That could be a violation of your parental rights. Andrew nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. Yes, I want to fight for custody. I can't bear the thought of being away from my children. They mean everything to me, he said, his voice revealing his determination. Sarah made a few quick notes before continuing. Let's start by reviewing any documents related to custody. Do you have a prenuptial agreement or any document that might influence the court's decision? Andrew shook his head regretfully. No, we never thought we'd need that, he replied. Sarah sighed lightly before proceeding. All right. Then we'll focus on building a strong case based on the children's best interests. We need to gather evidence showing that you are the most stable and secure option for custody, she explained. Andrew frowned, worried. What kind of evidence? He asked. Sarah looked directly into his eyes, conveying seriousness. We'll need testimonies, school records, medical reports, and any other documentation that demonstrates your closeness and involvement with your children. Additionally, it will be important to show that Amanda's current situation may not be the best for the children, especially considering her relationship with James Williams, Sarah detailed. Andrew felt a mix of relief and concern. He knew he had been a present father, but he also knew Amanda could use her influence and resources to complicate things. What about financial resources? Amanda is with James, who is very wealthy. Won't that work against me? Andrew asked apprehensively. Sarah paused before responding, carefully choosing her words. The court certainly considers financial stability, but it's not the only factor. The children's emotional and physical well-being is paramount. If we can demonstrate that you provide a more stable and loving environment that will carry significant weight, she explained. Andrew nodded, feeling a bit more confident. I understand. I'll start gathering everything that's necessary, he said with renewed determination. Sarah gave a slight smile, appreciating Andrew's resolve. Excellent. Let's schedule another meeting soon to review what you've gathered and develop a more detailed strategy. And remember, Andrew, the custody battle can be long and emotionally draining, but I'm here to guide you every step of the way, she assured him. Andrew left Sarah's office with a sense of renewed purpose. He knew the journey would be difficult, but he was determined to fight for his children. In the following days, he dedicated himself to gathering documents, speaking with teachers and doctors, and even talking to friends and family who could testify on his behalf. A week later, Andrew returned to Sarah's office with a stack of documents and a list of potential witnesses. Sarah reviewed everything carefully, making notes and suggesting adjustments where necessary. This is a good start, Andrew, Sarah said after reviewing the documents. Now, we need to prepare our arguments and anticipate Amanda and her lawyer's possible moves. They may try to discredit you as a father or argue that James's financial stability is more beneficial for the children. Andrew nodded, absorbing every word. I'm ready for whatever it takes, he said firmly. Sarah smiled, admiring Andrew's determination. We will win this battle, Andrew. I'm confident we can ensure your children stay with you, she said. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal and emotional activities. Andrew attended several meetings with Sarah, prepared for depositions, and stayed focused on his goal. Every time he thought of his children, he felt renewed and more determined to fight. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. Andrew and Sarah entered the courtroom, where Amanda and her lawyer were already waiting. The judge, a stern-looking man, entered and began the session. Sarah presented Andrew's arguments with clarity and conviction, highlighting his active involvement in his children's lives, his emotional stability, and his secure home environment. Amanda, in turn, argued that the financial stability provided by James would be more beneficial for the children. During the testimonies, Andrew's friends and family spoke about his love and dedication as a father. Teachers and doctors attested to his constant and positive presence in his children's lives. Each testimony seemed to strengthen Andrew's case. In a particularly tense moment, Amanda was questioned about her relationship with James and how it had influenced her decision to separate from Andrew. She tried to justify her actions, but it became clear that her involvement with James had been a significant factor in the marriage's dissolution. After hours of arguments and testimonies, the judge finally announced his decision. Andrew listened with his heart in his throat, each word echoing in the silent room. Considering all the evidence presented and the best interests of the children, I decide that primary custody should be granted to Mr. Andrew, the judge said firmly. Andrew felt a wave of relief and joy. He had won the battle for his children's custody. But looking at Amanda, he saw the pain and regret in her eyes. The victory was bittersweet, as he knew that despite everything, he still loved the woman who had once been his partner. As they left the courtroom, Sarah placed a hand on Andrew's shoulder. Congratulations, Andrew. You did a great job, she said with a smile. Andrew smiled back, feeling grateful for all of Sarah's support and guidance. He knew the battle had been tough, but he was determined to rebuild his life and provide a better future for his children. And so, Andrew took the first step in his journey of renewal, with the hope that despite the difficulties, he could find a new path to happiness and stability for his family. The news of James Williams' death arrived like a tempest, deeply unsettling everyone involved. Andrew, it's Sarah. I don't even know how to say this, but James, he's dead, Sarah said, her voice trembling. Andrew remained silent for a few seconds, trying to process what he had just heard. Dead? What do you mean, dead? What happened? He finally asked, his voice breaking. It was an overdose. They found him in a motel. It seems accidental, but they're still investigating, Sarah replied. After hanging up the phone, Andrew felt a mix of emotions. Part of him felt a strange sense of relief, as if a shadow had been lifted from his life. Another part, however, felt guilty for feeling this way, especially considering his children, who would inevitably be affected by this tragedy. Amanda, on the other hand, was found in a state of complete despair. When the news reached her, she was taking the children to school. Shaken, she had to pull over to the side of the road as she tried to comprehend what was happening. The children, confused, did not understand why their mother was crying. "Why are you crying, Mommy?" asked her youngest son, Lucas, with wide eyes. I don't know how to explain, honey. Something very bad happened, Amanda replied, trying to maintain her composure. When Amanda finally managed to call Andrew, her voice was filled with pain and confusion. "Andrew, you know, don't you?" "Yes, Amanda, I know." "I'm sorry," he said, with a sincerity that surprised even him. James' death brought a whirlwind of financial complications for Amanda. Being a wealthy and influential man, James had supported her luxurious lifestyle, and now, with him out of the picture, Amanda found herself in a precarious situation. The expenses began to pile up quickly, and she didn't know what to do. One afternoon, while the children were at school, Andrew decided to call Amanda. He knew it would be a difficult conversation, but he believed it was necessary to try. The phone rang a few times before Amanda answered, her voice tired and weary. "Hello?" Amanda said, without much enthusiasm. "Amanda, it's me, Andrew. We need to talk," Andrew responded, his tone serious but not aggressive. "About what?" she asked, with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "About a job offer," he began, trying to choose his words carefully. "I know you're going through financial difficulties, and I thought of something that might help." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line before Amanda responded. "What kind of offer?" she asked, cautiously. "I'd like you to work as a housekeeper and nanny here at home. I know it might seem strange, but I think it could be good for our children to have both parents around, even if under different circumstances." Amanda remained silent, processing the proposal. Andrew took the opportunity to continue. "Of course, there would be some conditions," he added, trying to be as clear as possible. "It would be a job with strict rules, and you'd have to follow them closely. But in return, you'd have a salary and a place to stay." "Rules? What kind of rules?" Amanda asked, now more concerned. "Rules about schedules, conduct, and other things we'll discuss later. I just want to ensure everything runs smoothly for the kids. We need to make this work for them." Amanda took a deep breath. She knew that accepting this proposal would mean swallowing her pride and submitting to a new power dynamic that would not be easy. But, at the same time, she was desperate and without many options. "Okay, Andrew. I accept," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Great. We can start next week, then," Andrew replied, trying to hide the relief in his voice. The week passed quickly, and soon Amanda was back at the house that had once been her home, but now in a completely different position. Andrew greeted her at the door, with a look that mixed hardness and something that could be described as compassion. "Welcome back, Amanda," he said, opening the door for her to enter. "Thank you," she replied, feeling strange as she crossed the threshold. Andrew led her through the house, showing her the room she would clean, the tasks she would need to perform, and the schedules she would have to follow. The tension in the air was palpable, but both knew they needed to make this work. On the first night, while they ate dinner in silence after putting the children to bed, Amanda decided to break the ice. "Andrew, I just want to thank you for this," she began, trying to find the right words. "I know it must not be easy for you, but I really appreciate the opportunity." Andrew looked at her for a moment before responding. "I'm not doing this for you, Amanda. I'm doing it for our kids. They deserve to have both parents around, even if things aren't the way they used to be." Amanda nodded, understanding the message behind his words. She knew she had a long way to go to rebuild any kind of relationship, whether with Andrew or the children. The following days were marked by a steady rhythm of work and tension. Amanda dedicated herself to the tasks with diligence, trying to prove she could be useful and reliable. Andrew, in turn, watched everything closely, enforcing the rules and ensuring they were followed. One night, while Amanda was finishing cleaning the kitchen, Andrew walked in, seeming like he had something to say. "Amanda, can we talk?" he asked, with a softer tone than usual. "Sure, about what?" she responded, putting down the dishcloth and turning to him. "I know this situation isn't easy for either of us. And I know I've imposed a lot of rules since you came back. But I want you to know this isn't a form of punishment. It's a way to try to maintain some kind of order and stability for the kids," he said, seeming genuinely concerned. Amanda was surprised by Andrew's sincerity and decided to open her heart a bit more. "I understand, Andrew. And honestly, I deserve this. I made wrong choices, and I'm trying to deal with the consequences. I just want our kids to be okay. And if that means accepting these conditions, I'm willing to do that," she responded, her eyes filling with tears. Andrew sighed, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "Let's make this work, Amanda. For the sake of the kids." The days turned into weeks, and gradually, the new dynamic began to take shape. Amanda started to feel more comfortable in her new role, and Andrew began to notice that despite everything, Amanda was genuinely trying to do her best. One night, while they were watching a movie with the kids, a small dialogue changed Andrew's perception. "Daddy, it's so nice to have Mommy here again," said little Emily, nestled next to Amanda on the couch. Andrew looked at his daughter and then at Amanda, who was smiling timidly. "Yes, sweetie, it's nice to have Mommy around," he replied, with a genuine smile for the first time in a long while. One night, while putting away the toys scattered across the living room floor, his youngest son, Tommy, approached timidly. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy smile anymore?" The question hit Andrew like a punch in the gut. Trying to hide his own pain, he replied, "Mommy's going through a tough time, son. But we're going to get through this together." Tommy looked up at him with innocent, hopeful eyes. "Do you promise, Daddy?" Andrew felt a lump in his throat. "I promise, my dear," he answered, trying to force a smile. After the children went to bed, Andrew retreated to the porch, where he felt more comfortable reflecting. He recalled the happy days he had shared with Amanda before everything fell apart. The laughter, family outings, cozy nights watching movies together. It all seemed so distant now. The pain of betrayal and abandonment was still fresh in his heart, but he couldn't deny that he still loved Amanda, despite everything. He remembered a conversation he had with his best friend, Jack, shortly after James Williams' death. Jack, known for his blunt and straightforward manner, didn't hesitate to question Andrew's actions. "Do you really think controlling Amanda like this will bring you peace?" Jack asked, taking a sip of his beer. "I just want justice, Jack. She destroyed our family," Andrew replied, anger evident in his voice. "Maybe, but turning her life into hell won't undo what happened. And your kids? They're seeing all of this, Andrew. Is it worth it?" Jack retorted, looking directly into Andrew's eyes. Those words echoed in his mind now. His children were growing up in an environment of constant tension and resentment. They deserved better. Amanda deserved better. He deserved better. Then, on a day that seemed like any other, an unexpected and shocking twist occurred. While working at home, Amanda received a call from a private detective she had hired to investigate James Williams' death. The news she received was staggering. "Amanda," the detective said on the other end of the line, "James is not dead. He faked his own death to escape debts and financial fraud. We have concrete proof of this." Amanda was in shock, unable to process the information. Andrew, sitting next to her, noticed the change in her expression and asked, concerned, "What is it, Amanda? What happened?" "James," she stammered, still trying to find the words. James is alive. He faked his death to escape debts and fraud. The ensuing silence was deafening. Andrew felt a mix of anger and indignation. This changes everything, Andrew finally said. Amanda, you need to go to the police with this information. Amanda, still shaken, agreed. The next day, she went to the police station and provided all the evidence the detective had gathered. James Williams was located and arrested, and the investigations revealed the extent of his frauds and financial crimes. The legal repercussions for Amanda were inevitable. James had involved her name in various irregularities, and she too would be prosecuted. But Andrew, now wiser and more understanding, decided to support her. He realized that the true enemy was James and that Amanda, despite her mistakes, was also a victim of the circumstances. Amanda, he said, holding her hand as they awaited the start of the trial. I know we've been through a lot together. And I know you're remorseful. I want you to know that I'm here to support you, for the sake of our children and for our own good. Amanda looked at Andrew with tears in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt a true sense of hope that things might get better. Thank you, Andrew, she replied, emotional. I don't know what I would do without you. Amanda's trial was complicated, but thanks to the evidence against James, she was cleared of the most serious allegations. Justice was served, and James was convicted of his crimes. After the trial, Andrew and Amanda decided it was time to rebuild their lives. The children, who had been silent victims of the conflict between their parents, now began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. The atmosphere at home became lighter, and harmony started to be restored. One day, while they were all having dinner together, one of the children, Lucas, looked at his parents and said, I'm happy that you two are getting along now. It means a lot to us. Andrew and Amanda exchanged a meaningful glance. They knew they still had a long way to go, but they were willing to walk that path together, for the sake of their family.